Good morning, and thank you so much for the opportunity today. We're really humbled by the asking and always at the opportunity to share the work of the Black Belt Community Foundation, which we're very proud of. It is very hard work, as I'm sure is most of the work that each of you happens to be a part of, but we are delighted to be here today. So as we talk quite a bit about leveraging resources to advance equity in rural areas, I want to just take a moment to share with you a little bit about Alabama's Black Belt. And for some, the Black Belt region includes maybe about 19 counties in the state of Alabama. For others, it may include 17, for some 21. For the service area of the Black Belt Community Foundation includes 12 counties throughout Alabama's Black Belt. So the Black Belt, as this slide says, is really arguably one of the most pluralistic areas in the state. Very diverse in terms of age, race, political, religious, just a little bit of everything, extremely diverse. So the Black Belt Community Foundation was really created to help address issues and to bring communities together around each of these issues so that we could move forward. Now, the artifacts of slavery have had, this is the one slide I'm going to read, have had and continue to have a detrimental effect on the lives of all those living in former slave-holding areas. Rural areas, because of their large vegetation, were synonymous with slavery and later sharecropping. There are many blacks within the Black Belt that still reside in the same areas their slave ancestors once lived. And many of you may be familiar with the Gee's Bend quilters, who are renowned quilters from Gee's Bend, Alabama, and I just referenced that as an area that we serve. These are the 12 counties that we serve, as you can see, which kind of almost look like a belt across the state. And for many, oftentimes if I go to speak, folks think Black Belt means martial arts, but it doesn't. And I always have to add this point of clarity. It was the initial title of the Black Belt, or got its name from the rich black soil that made cotton king back in the day. And the Black Belt doesn't just only span in the state of Alabama, but as far east as North Carolina, as far west to Texas. And if you look at a geological map, you'll see really rich black soil that goes right through those areas. So you'll notice that there's one county in the midst of all the red, and that is Montgomery County. Our service area does not include Montgomery, and that is because it has a community foundation there that has always serviced it. A little bit about why there was a need to create the Black Belt Community Foundation. There were several leaders and organizers in our community who had come together around 2002 and noticed that many philanthropic dollars were coming into the state of Alabama, but very few were coming in these 12 counties that needed them most. There were philanthropic efforts that were taking place, but there were not dollars there to support those efforts. So many of the works that were happening and changes that were being made were being funded by the residents who lived in those communities. And their only drive was to make home better, not really for anything else. So the mission of the Black Belt Community Foundation, and this is always a favorite part of my presentation because I think understanding why we were created and how we were created is really critical to how we do our work. Traditional foundations have been known to almost be community banks. They've looked to write checks to support works that have gone out, and many of the checks have been funded or financed mostly, especially back in the day, maybe 40, 50 years ago, mostly funded through the pockets of rich, older white men. So philanthropy has pretty much taken a twist now, and we look at community foundations have been around since about over 100 years now. And we're really, really fortunate. We were established, the first one, which was in Cleveland, came around 1914. And so out of that time, we've seen a little bit of a transition. That's why it was really remarkable on that previous slide that community foundations were serving other areas in the state, but not in the Black Belt region. So we decided we wanted to create a foundation that would be by the people, for the people, and to the people. It was our goal to not create an entity that folks could not access. We wanted to make sure that all had access to what we were doing. And in doing that, we went out into each of these communities, first explained what a community foundation was. And I had come from corporate America. I had not done this type of work before. This was not even my dream job. And I ended up volunteering and fell in love with the work. And I think what called me to it was the fact that it was community helping community. And not to say that others could not come in to help with the work, but it was valuing what already existed in community. So our mission statement here says that we want to forge a collective stream of giving from the community and other sources, so we, the people of the Black Belt, can enhance our continuing efforts by taking what we have to make what we need. That's always critical for me, because it says we want to take the resources that currently exist in our community, couple them or pair them with resources from outside the community to affect positive change in our area. So our vision is of a transformed Black Belt, where pretty much all of our residents contribute to, and then they reap the benefits of our shared giving. And that's very critical. Little bit of history about the Black Belt. I'm a native of the Black Belt region, born and raised in Sumter County, Alabama. So oftentimes the Black Belt region of the state has felt similar to the Delta in Mississippi, similar to Appalachia, has always felt very disconnected from many of the services that the state government and oftentimes national government offers. So it was our goal to make these 12 counties that felt pretty much disconnected, to give them a sense of, to help validate some of their work. And that's actually a quote that had come from one of our grantees, as a matter of fact, in addition to helping to support their work. To be able, and with one of the first grants that we made, and our first grant-making cycle came in 2005, it was said to us, we didn't know that others would invest in the work that we were doing. We didn't even know that this was possible. So that's why we have had to spend a lot of time going into communities, helping to educate on what organized philanthropy looks like, so that we can get the support of the community and then bring in support from outside or bigger or larger philanthropy to support our work. It is not an easy task, but a very necessary task if we want to affect lasting change in our community, and that is really our goal. A little bit about our values at the foundation. You'll see I've highlighted in red those, what will resonate throughout my entire presentation, and that is very simply, we place the community as our highest priority. It stands at the top of everything we do. Every move we make, every policy that we approve goes through our community. It is not an easy task driving all across the state of Alabama to make sure that each of those counties sees and understands and knows and really signs off on what we're doing, but it is a very necessary part of the way we work. We value the strengths of a multifaceted community. Economic, racial, and social justice universally practiced. I'm going to just read the red: integrity, inclusion, transparency, community leadership. All of those sound like buzzwords, but they're really words that we live by, because it's very necessary for us to be able to get the support from the community level, once again, and then leverage resources from the outside so that we can do more of what's already going on. So a little bit about how we serve and how we do our work. We try to make sure that we bring individuals together in our community to share their stories, to share their successes, and to share sometimes places where they may have fallen down or not made it quite to where they need to go. And a part of our mission statement says we want to take what we have to make what we need. And it's not that we don't take resources from the outside, we just couple them with what we already have to do the work that we're doing. We do a lot of funding through our small grants program. We support nonprofit organizations. Our vision, or pretty much our theory of change, is that if we support community-based organizations, if we give them the tools that they need so that they can be effective at doing their work, then we will be able to transform the region. That requires us to make a large investment in community. And I can say I was just in New York on last week talking to others at the Ford Foundation. One piece of the work that we do, and this will likely come from our other two speakers as well on this panel, is our work looks very different. So most times, there's a traditional model that most funders like to fund, but we don't fit traditional in any sense of the word. We are anything but traditional, as a matter of fact. So oftentimes, even our travel budgets will look different, because our community isn't just all grouped in one little area. You've actually got to get out into those communities. And it takes some time, it takes almost some persuasion to help others see your vision of how you do your work. Not only see it, but to value it so. So we work closely with our grants program. We have a grassroots leadership development program, which is one of the facets of our foundation that I found to be very different among other foundations throughout the nation, and that is our community volunteers in each of our 12 counties that have grown to be a very strong and very well-woven network for us. If we need to mobilize community around our 12-county area, we can do it with a quick text, email, or phone call and have 120 individuals on the ground moving at any given moment to help influence policy, to do all of what needs to be done. We provide training for them on twice a year. We do overnight trainings, and even just to get that funded, because many of them have to travel. I think the farthest county is about 2 hours away one way, so that's quite a bit of traveling to come and get that training, but it is necessary so that they can be good leaders, not only for the foundation, but also for their communities as well. We provide the different capacity building workshops to strengthen our nonprofits and our other grants program. One piece I really want to talk about that we've done in partnership with the University of Alabama School of Medicine, it was very, very critical to us. And I can say this because since our founding in 2004, we've always had a representative from really each of the major institutions in our area, from Auburn University to the University of Alabama to Tuskegee University and several others. And one statement that we've made more often than not has been, most times universities or higher ed doesn't always value community. And it's not said in a way to be disrespectful or to cause trouble. It is just a fact. So what we've found in working with the University of Alabama School of Medicine is we partner with them in a community-based participatory research project where we paired our community volunteers with the faculty and staff of the University of Alabama School of Medicine and other researchers. And our community volunteers kind of shared a little bit about the cultural awareness of those communities and their thoughts about what type of research should be done to address different health disparities. Then the researchers came in and taught the community how to conduct the research, and then the medical learners kind of tied it all together. What was really cool about this project is then we had individuals from the community who never really knew and understood the value of being published, because in higher ed, that's a really cool thing, right? Well, in the community foundation world, it's not as high up on the totem pole as it is in academia. So we've had community leaders who are now published in different journals that go throughout the nation. That is truly remarkable. At the end of the day, the community owns, in partnership with the University of Alabama School of Medicine, the data that was collected in this community. Extremely critical. I said to the doctor that I was working with at Alabama is that they were very different in wanting to do their work a different way. Because most times, if you're invited to the table, it is on a surface level, and you're not always forced to really dig deep and value community. And I say to others, just as the PhDs, or if you have a PhD or a title in higher ed, that is important. And there are others who have a PhD in community. So it may look a little different, but the value should be equal. One should not be here or there. And I've appreciated the fact that, and we had to say this going into it, for as much as you want to learn from us, we want to learn from you. So let's do it on equal grounding as we do our work. A little bit about ways that we would suggest others help. And there's a copy, and I think on the very last line of, let me see here, well maybe, yes, the very last line will reference to a project that was done as the South grows, a report that was done as the South grows on fertile soil. And this report was done by the National Center on Responsive Philanthropy in partnership with the Grant Makers for Southern Progress. And I would suggest reading it, and we can always send this link out, but what's so invaluable, and many of the ways to help will actually come from here, but this report was generated in partnership with many of us in the southeastern region of the nation. It was necessary because many funders were finding themselves funding pretty much upward of Tennessee or Kentucky, and very little coming down this way. Not really valuing that there is good leadership that exists in southern communities, not really valuing that there are strong organizations who can do this type of work. And you've heard from some this morning. You will hear from even more powerful speakers this afternoon. And it will just confirm all of what this report says, that the capacity exists in the South. It's not perfect. There is room for improvement, and there are ways that individuals can help. But it must start very clearly by helping to identify networks and collaborations that are already on the ground existing. Everyone loves to create something new, and it's not always necessary to do that, because sometimes there are collaborations or partnerships that are already working. And then there's an opportunity to prioritize leaders and organizations that pretty much have the trust in their community. If you want to come in and create something that lasts and then disappears, the best way to do it is to not involve the community. But if you really want to have a lasting change in the work that you're doing, come in, work with individuals who are grounded in community to do your work. There's also a way that other funders and just even other programs can value the work of Southern leaders and organizations that exist throughout the South. You know, and understanding that these organizations can really best articulate many of the challenges. Structured racism, as you'll hear more about, is ever present in our communities. There is truly an opportunity to address some of those structural systems that have really caused a lot of the inequities that we're seeing along the way. And I know that many have seen, or you will definitely see different slides on equity, and I'll just use a little bit of my own, which isn't a slide, but when we think about equity in the way that we do our work, I use the example I think I got from a gentleman named Scott that says we're thinking about not just everyone having a shoe, but everyone having a shoe that fits. So as we do our work and provide access to data, to information, to understanding research, to understanding the power that exists within community to impact policies that then will actually affect the way individuals live, then we actually create a more equitable and just society. It is not work for those that faint in heart, but it is very necessary work to do. So I'll close by saying, in the words of one of my very favorite poets of Nikki Giovanni, that says, "Take away our drums and we will clap our hands. We prove the human spirit will prevail." We will shift the power in Alabama's Black Belt by continuing to take what we have to make what we need. Thank you. And now at this time, I'd like to introduce Ashley Browning.